Yes, hi, is this David?
This is.
Hey, David, it's Kevin Glowicki, Never Stop Media. Spoke to you in email. I got you gave me your phone number.
Yeah, hey, what's up, dude?
Not much. How are you?
Good.
Good. How's Reno? Is it hot?
Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I got you. I was just switching over to my car. What's up?
Oh. Yeah, so I got your obviously Brad reached out. Um I So I was just so you know a little for me. So I was in Kenosha. I lived there at the time, um, and I was out there for the 9 days of unrest that was going on. Um, I was there the night with Kyle. I captured some of that stuff on video and whatnot. Um, so yeah, I've been investigating Kenosha since then. And kind of more so in the totality of what kind of really happened during that whole time, and reaching out to you, I was kind of hoping to maybe gain a little bit more kind of insight and clarity, like once your involvement kind of came into play, um, and then with some of the stuff that you released on Twitter and all that. I wanted to kind of talk to you about that stuff too.
Okay.
Um, when did you first like kind of like how did you get involved with Kyle?
I was first involved with Lynn Wood. I was doing some security work for him, and I was at his house the night of the incident, and I saw the Kyle thing happen. I saw the stuff going crazy in the media, and I said, well, there's no way they can know the stuff they're saying. I was like, maybe we should help this kid, you know?
Right.
And so and so and so Lynn decided to get involved mostly because John Pierce had got involved and they were in an organization together. So he asked me to basically be the first executive director of that nonprofit, um, and raise the money to help Kyle. And I did that for a little while until I saw what it was, which was, they're basically scamming the Rittenhouse family. So then I ended up leaving. And then John Pierce called me when he was still representing Kyle and asked if I'd pick up Kyle when he got bailed out. I did. And then I told Wendy, I gave her all the financials from Fight Back and told her that they're basically robbing the family. And she asked me if I would help her raise money for Kyle. So then I agreed to that, and I created Free Kyle USA, and I spun up a trust for him and his family to raise the money and pay the bills the legal way.
Right.
Yeah, and then I noticed Kyle was an arrogant little prick from the beginning, and me and my other guy really tried to teach him how to not be a fucking retard. And they lied to me, specifically Kyle lied to me on several occasions about the things he was doing before Kenosha, and then I ended up assuming the role as his de facto spokesperson and kind of spinning the stories and trying to kind of get his image changed in the media. I think I was pretty effective at that. Yeah, but then after the trial, I started noticing, call him a young kid or not, he's a pretty shitty person. He put his hands on his girlfriend and did some other really messed up stuff, and point where I just had enough trying to help him, because it's almost as if that's all he ever wanted to be, was this political tool, you know. And then I found out the truth of all of it when he went too far and tried to have my family followed, or had my family followed. And that's when I found the phone that he had that was given back to him by Mark Richards. And I opened that up, and that's when I realized that everything that I had done to defend him and whatever was all built on lies.
Can you give me some examples of like things that he was kind of lying about that you were trying to like spin in like a more positive thing for the media?
Sure. The reason I had that New Yorker article done, specifically the New Yorker article, I spent a lot of time working on that, was to get some information out there very clearly that ended up helping him. I mean, the jurors and the judge himself even said they read the New Yorker article and it changed their mind. But basically, what him and his sisters had told me was that, like, he was supporting George Floyd, like after the George Floyd incident happened and there was some unrest or protest, saying that he actually went there and protested with the George Floyd protesters. But the reality is, and so that's when I spun with like the New Yorker, right? Well, because I believe that to be true, so that really wasn't a spin. Just kind of paint him in this different light as not this kind of political right-wing douchebag, right? That went out there because he got radicalized from social media. But the reality was he was actually carrying a gun and running around trying to play security guard at locations in Chicago and Kenosha right after the George Floyd incident. He wasn't protesting on behalf of George Floyd. He was radicalized, trying to get into a situation where he could shoot somebody. And all this is painted pretty clearly in his cell phone, his text messages. His pictures of him carrying around a shotgun and an AR and this other stuff. He borrowed a buddy of his security uniform, and was on rooftops, and actually the cops were called, and he took a picture of the cop that he was talking to, and said things like he had a police scanner, and him and his friends were actually following the police scanner where there were shots fired and trying to get involved in some kind of violent crime, thinking he because he was a police explorer wearing a borrowed security uniform, could shoot people.
Jesus. What the picture that you had posted with Kyle with the shotgun on the rooftop, that was in Kenosha?
That was in Kenosha, yeah.
Do you know when that picture was taken?
Yeah, May 1st through May 15th. He did it several nights. Like, they were out several nights playing wannabe cop. And it's not like they were just protecting a property or whatever, right? And there really was no riots in Kenosha at that time.
Yeah, right. I was there.
Yeah. He had been doing this over and over again. But the sickening part was and we have reports of shots fired moving there now.
So he was actively trying to insert himself into stuff. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. What? Go ahead.
Another spin I did do was that video, right? Like, I managed to get that video of him fighting that girl pretty much kiboshed by all mainstream media, by basically spinning what the video was what they told me was, he was protecting his sister. Well, what I found out later from his messages talking to Dominic was Kyle was the instigator in that whole situation. What I should have done was gotten the entire video from Mackenzie's friends. Like, Kyle was the one who started it. He was the one who was talking shit to her. He was the one who told her he would beat her ass. And we're talking about the girl that he walloped on in the back of the head.
Yeah.
He wasn't protecting his sister. He was the one who was starting the entire thing.
What was that all about? Like how did that start?
She was talking shit to Kyle. Like, she was telling Kyle he's a fucking dork or whatever, and Kyle was like, because Kyle started with her for no reason. That's as much as I can glean from the messages. Dominic's like, dude, you got me punched. Like you punched me. And Kyle's like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. And then Kyle also said to Dominic about the kids who beat him up for doing it. The rest of the video where you see those black kids get out of their car and beat him up.
Yeah.
Kyle told Dominic, I know where they all are and I'm going to get them. And Dominic's like, maybe you should just not. And Kyle's like, I know who they are. I'm going to get them. And Dominic's like, dude, you need to stop. And Kyle's like, pretty much insinuating he's going to go hunt them down and kill them. Yeah. The kid was. I mean, I noticed a lot of character flaws with him, but that's especially after the trial when he lived with me. And that's one of the reasons I was pushing him so hard to get into school, right? Keep his head down, get into school, gain some life perspective. Maybe he'd grow out of this kind of behavior.
Right.
Did everything I could to keep the right-wing grift machine away from him. But once I was out of the picture and they had their claws into him, they just turned him into this fucking monster. Well, I think he was already a monster. It got to the point where he was feeding his ex-girlfriend. Like, he thought it was cool. Like, he took some girl's virginity and he thought it was cool, and then he found a prettier girl on TikTok talking about him, so he had himself like a pretty girlfriend for the first time in history, and he wanted the world to know, and I'm like, no, do not put her picture and her name up on your Twitter account. Like, do not bring her into this, dude. But all he cared about was like the world seeing he's got a pretty girlfriend. And he kept pumping her full of Plan B. I mean, she probably took like 30 Plan B pills. And I made her an appointment to go get on actual birth control. And then, this is crazy. So then, she was supposed to check in to her freshman year of college. Supposed to check into the dorms. And the night before she was supposed to go to college, Kyle forced her to drop out of college and not go because he was insecure. And then she got really upset about it, called me and asked me my advice. So both of them did. And I just told them how disappointed I was in Kyle and her for letting it happen. And so they were on kind of rocky grounds. And during that rocky grounds, now he tried to get her pregnant. Right? He had been telling her parents that I was down there with them and providing security while they were just living together in their house at Kyle's place in College Station. You know, and when I found out about that, I told her parents, and I said, look, you need to know this, right? Like, I'm an adult. These are children. You need to know what's going on with your daughter, okay? Kyle got really upset, thought I ruined his life. You know, it is what it is. I said, Kyle, I'm done with you. I'm not working with you anymore. Like you've crossed too many lines. And then that's when he went off the rails and hired people to follow me and my family. My car was tampered with. I got my wife caught people doing surveillance outside of her house. We live in a cul-de-sac, so she caught people, made eye contact. They drove off, and then I got a phone call from a PI that I know that Kyle hired to come follow me around so he could break into my house. And I said, what the fuck is he trying to break in my house for? And that's when I went through his stuff that was still at my house. That's when I found the phone. I mean, just a lot of shit, right? So, like, spinning that fight in the media, like, that was all Kyle, right?
Yeah.
The reality about Kyle was he didn't get... he failed the ASVAB miserably for the military, but he was telling everybody that he had a infantry contract. Right, he was lying to people. He wasn't in school. He wasn't studying for the ASVAB. He was lying to people and telling people that he had a contract, that he was going to be going to the military, all this other shit. And then I found the messages where he was sending videos of him field shipping his AR to his recruiters. And when I talked to his recruiter, he said the reason he was permanently banned. Well, one, Kyle then started telling people that because he hurt his neck when he got jumped, he was permanently banned from the military. Right? That was like he is a routine pathological liar. And I think he had to do that to build up some resistance. Right? He was constantly being picked on. I found out he was being picked on because he was running around throwing the N-bomb out, calling people niggers and all this shit fucking way back in the day, back to his middle school days. He was pulled out of school because these two kids wanted to fight him. And that's one of the reasons he wanted to become a cop, was he was one of those kids that got beat up and picked on all the time, pulled out of school because of it. That kind of molded his character and personality, right? Where he wanted to become a cop, and he truly felt like he was a cop, right? Like, let me back up. So he was field shipping his weapons. I talked to his recruiter. He said, well, that's why he was permanently banned, because people who do stuff like that show there's not something right in their head, right? Like, they're more thinking about carrying guns and shooting people than they are having some kind of lifelong career or job in the military.
Right.
And so that's why he was banned from joining the military. Now he went into the Police Explorers, you know, and some of his messages that he was sending people was he could shoot people because he wears blue, right? There's one message where Dominic got in a fight, and Kyle said, you should have just pulled your AR out and shot him. And Dominic's like, it was a fist fight. And Kyle's like, oh, well, whatever, still should have pulled it out. right? So he has a fundamental misunderstanding of like escalation of force and proper employment, right? What else? What else? There's just so much to it. Like when he said that he could go out and shoot protesters, and somebody said, "But Kyle, somebody else will do that. You're not a cop. Like you have a gun. You're not a cop." And he said, "I wear blue." And she said, "Again, not a cop." And he said, "I wear blue." Right? So, like, this is a kid in crisis at this point. Right? I was also told that he was, like, a fan of Andrew Yang. Right? And I really jumped on that to spin that in the media. Like, he's not some right-wing fucking fanatic fool. Right? And even after trial, we did an interview where I encouraged him to just say that, like, he's not a Trump fan, he's not a Biden fan, he's not a political kid, he's got nothing to do with politics, right? Like, I got to spun that story. Well, what I read in his messages was one of his friends told him, somebody is going to break in your car and tear that flag down because he had a Trump flag hanging in his car. And Kyle said, "No, that wouldn't happen. I would hear the alarm and bang, 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 drop. That's all you'd hear." Right? So the kid who said he wasn't a political kid and wasn't involved, it wasn't sort of being, I guess, transitioning into this kind of extreme thoughts that became rampant under the Trump administration around the time of these riots was exactly that. All right, let me fast forward a little bit now. So what also became clear was like, you know, he perjured himself on the stand.
Okay.
I know for a fact that he has messages using the N-word and using the N-bomb and all this other stuff. That those messages were not on that phone.
Okay.
Which is weird, right? Because they should be on that phone. But Mark recovered a whole bunch of very disturbing messages. And then when I looked through the phone, those messages weren't on that phone. So the only time that Kyle could have deleted those messages would be when he left the scene that night, drove down to Antioch. Now he admits getting a phone charger at Antioch, and then him and his mom drove around for a little while before he went to the police station. And it was at that point that I'm fairly certain that he went through and started to delete his messages and didn't get them all deleted, right? But then you got to wonder, like, think about the investigation side of this, because I know you're more interested in the corruption side, right? Those are some little tidbits about Kyle's personality.
Yeah.
Right. He's just an arrogant, which often happens with kids without fathers and kids who have no education. They live in this life of it. I mean, Kyle's like, I could beat you in swimming, and I'm like, I'm a fucking Navy SEAL, dude. I've swam more in my life than fucking steps you've taken. Like, get the fuck out of here. You're like, just that kind of shit that come out. I'm like, what do you even? But then he would think he knows everything about medical stuff, like, oh, you know, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, dude, you're a fucking lifeguard. You're not an EMT. You're not a medic. You have no experience in any of this. Like, what are you talking about? It used to drive me crazy. But that's kind of his personality, right? Like, he's this arrogant kid who believed he had the authority to go down there and enforce the law. Like, he was looking for that. He also said he never heard of the Proud Boys or the Boogaloo Boys. And then I found a message.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, man. My phone overheated. It was sitting on my lap in the sun.
No worries, no worries.
So where does this shoot?
So like some of the you were finishing up with the like his personality and kind of leading into like the investigative element.
Yeah, so the kid he was hanging around with, one of them, his name is Andrew Reeves. He was an ex-Marine. He did security. That's the guy whose security uniform he borrowed to go run around on rooftops. He said his name on the stand, but nobody really looked into this kid. But I did, and what I found was like, yeah, he used to be like a Boogaloo Boy, Proud Boy guy, right? Throwing up the OK sign. And Kyle really looked up to this dummy at the time. He was also the guy that Kyle said he called to come pick him up when he couldn't get back to the police line. Well, he ended up moving to like Kentucky right after the incident just to get the hell out of there. But his name is Andrew Reeves, Reeves.
Okay. When
Yeah, so what I noticed, basically, just to kind of sum that part up, was like the personality, the character flaws that I saw in Kyle. I thought it was because he was young. I truly believe that, like, Kyle, I believe that this was like a one-off, you know, because I asked him very specifically. I said, "Had you ever been doing anything like this before? And was there any sort of racism involved in your life at the time?" He said no to the racism. I found out he sent multiple text messages saying he wants to kill niggers. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I found out that that was all a lie. Like, he had been out in the streets for months, right? Trying to get into a situation where he can do something like this, right? And why he ended up at Kenosha that night was because Nick Smith was already down in Kenosha. Nick Smith said that he wished he had kit, right? Body armor. So Kyle basically said, "I'll let you wear my body armor if you let me protect property with you."
Yeah, so Kyle, Kyle's statement is that the Antioch Police Department gave him the vest. Where did, and they're denying it, of course. Do you know where
It was
he? What's that?
It was Gray's Lake.
Gray's Lake. That's what I meant. I'm sorry, not Antioch. Gray's Lake. Did they actually give him the body armor?
That's what Kyle said. Now, what I find interesting, I'm glad you're picking up on that, was because Kyle in his book said he doesn't remember where he got it from.
Interesting.
But Kyle had said, and he said, from Gray's Lake.
Yeah. Okay.
He said it was an issue. If Gray's Lake is denying it, because I thought it was weird that they would give him body armor anyways.
Right, yeah.
You know, but did he buy the body armor? Was that what he bought with the rest of his, like, because he was wearing that body armor around a long time before. Now, I'm also curious about whether or not there's a personnel record, like a training record, some kind of record of Kyle's behavior and demeanor and things of that nature at Gray's Lake. Because once the shooting happened, they took down all the pictures with him at the Gray's Lake functions and shit like that. And he's not wearing that body armor anywhere when he's actually on those ride-alongs.
Right.
So where did he get the body armor and why did he buy it?
Yeah.
Right? Things like this really started becoming clear when I really started to see his personality, right? Like, when he was, what really changed everything for me as it relates to Kyle was he was living at my house, and um, I had made arrangements for 2 tutors to start working with him for his placement test, right, for Blinn University. And I said 9 o'clock in the morning, and he didn't show up. So I went over to the house he was at, and I was pissed. Right? He left the garage a complete fucking total shit show mess, and he didn't show up. And I got these 2 tutors on the way over to the house. And I show up, and he's fucking hung over as shit, threw up all over this bedroom. And I'm like, get your ass home. So he comes to my house with a cop, because he was at a cop's house that night. And the cop comes with him, and he's in my fucking office, and I'm like, dude, you had shit. Like, I paid these tutors $3,000. You said you wanted tutoring. You didn't show up. This is no. And Kyle's like, I was scared you were going to shoot me in the head. And I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck are you talking? And now he started to play victim again, right? He went right back into that, I thought you were going to shoot me. Like, I didn't even have my gun on me. It was in my safe. Like, and that's when I realized the only thing that this kid learned to do was play fucking victim. That's when it hit me. Anyway, he ended up leaving my house, packing up his truck, left his room a complete mess. The only thing he left with was the AR that was bought for him at a fucking auction and locked up in the safe, and his 2 ghost pistols. He throws those in his car in his back seat and starts driving across 7 state lines. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Do you even know the laws in the states you're driving through? And that right there just showed me he doesn't give a fuck. Like, he learned nothing.
Yeah.
And so I continued to help him just to get him into school. And basically, when he decided not to go to school is when I stepped away. That's when the whole thing with the girlfriend happened. That's when I told him I quit. I'm not working with you anymore. That's when he went fucking postal and tried to have me followed and tamper with my car and everything. So, but yeah, there's so much more under the surface that I think you'd be interested in. Like, when the cops interdicted him on rooftops in Kenosha, Kyle took a picture of the cop. And Kyle said, we're on rooftops. Oh no, now we're dealing with police. And then his next message was, we're back on rooftops, shots fired 2 blocks away. Right? So you got to think, well, what did the cops say to Kyle when they caught him running around with a shotgun at 17 years old on top of roofs?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Now, you want to look into the corruption and stuff. Look, I think it's a big fucking deal, okay? Kyle stated in his police interview he needs to delete his Snapchat. That was caught on camera.
Right, yeah, we have that.
Right?
Yep.
Nobody filed a subpoena to Snapchat? No, nobody did. Nobody even knew his Snapchat existed until I found it on his phone. So nobody dropped a subpoena. Nobody put a fucking litigation hold on his Snapchat account, which that's all he communicated with. That's it. That's where he sent all the pictures. He sent a picture of himself pointing his gun at protesters. If they got his Snapchat, he'd be in fucking jail for 20 years. No doubt about it.
Do you have a copy of that picture?
I can't give that. The plaintiff's attorneys have that.
Okay. Do you know?
That phone was subpoenaed. That phone was subpoenaed, and I turned it over because of a court order, which is the legal and the appropriate thing to do. So.
Yeah. No, I understand.
But now he also he sent a picture of that guy that got hit with the brick.
Yep.
And Kyle said, "Time to kill someone." Kyle also was telling his friends the morning of Kenosha, before he went and found a property to protect, before he talked to the brothers who own car stores, before he went and cleaned graffiti, Kyle said, "I'm going to Kenosha today with my AR," of which he named Ashlyn and was obsessive over it, saying she's so beautiful, she shoots so straight, like weird shit. Like, I'm a retired Navy SEAL. My gun is my fucking gun. It doesn't have a fucking name. Doesn't have, like, I don't call it a sheet. It's a tool. It's not a fucking love affair. Right? Like,
yeah, it's not. It's
I mean,
not
off
the
the
movie.
wall shit, honestly. So nobody put a subpoena in for a Snapchat. They had his phone. They tried to crack his phone. They couldn't crack his phone. They didn't have the right technology in the Celebrate. So they had Mark come down and put in the PIN number to Kyle's phone. One time. So Mark went down, put in the PIN number. Mark, with his IT guy, pulled the data from the phone. That's how Mark found the deleted messages. Okay? Because Mark actually, they exploited Kyle's phone the proper way. They found a bunch of deleted messages that Mark had. He's not going to put those in discovery. The prosecution had a chance to do it too. When the prosecution, they fucked up. Quote unquote. They fucked up. So the DA's office with the DA's fucking investigators somehow didn't pull the data from Kyle's phone. Binger then asked for another shot. "Oh, we failed at pulling the data from the phone. Can you put the pin in again?" And at that point, Mark said, "No, go to the court and have them court order it." Apparently, from what I've heard, Binger thought they had fucking Kyle dead to rights from the Proud Boys thing and from the CBS video. Which is ironic because Judge Schroeder stated that he won't let the CBS video in unless they had other corroborating information, i.e. from Kyle's cell phone or messages he sent, which there was plenty of. So they failed to pull a Snapchat. They failed to exploit his phone, or did they? Right? You got to wonder, or did they?
Right.
They never went and looked for the commercial drone video, which actually had the shooting on video. The one that aired on Tucker Carlson. Do you know who found that guy?
No.
Who then denied being part? His name was Mark Urban. He owned a company called Urban Air. The guy was flying for Urban Air that night. That went on to Tucker Carlson. That clipped it. They tried to sell it, and Tucker wouldn't buy it. So they ended up just giving it to Tucker. And Urban Air was the company. Mark Urban was the CEO. I found out they shut down that company. After that was posted briefly, they shut down the company. They dissolved it, and they scrubbed the internet of all Urban Air presence. So I found Mark Urban because I found a night flight waiver for Kenosha, and we sent our investigators out there to talk to him. He denied being involved. He denied everything. For some reason, Mark never pushed the issue. Right? Mark never pushed the issue. Mark was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, okay, had nothing to do with it. Cool." So that means, so nobody had the video, right? Nobody had the full, unadulterated, uncompressed video except for, um, well, nobody had it because Tucker was given the compressed version. And I'm like, we got to find that video. That video is going to come out. There's a chance that video can surface during this trial, and you're going to be caught on your heels, Mark. And he seemed confident that, like, nope, nothing's going to happen with that video. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I'll be honest with you, Mark almost lost that fucking case like 10 fucking times. Anyways, that video walks in from Brandon Beeman. He walks that video in halfway through trial, and because now the prosecution is on their heels, right? So he walks in with the video and hands it to the prosecution, who then compressed the video and give us a fully compressed version. And I'm the one who noticed it, and I'm like, this isn't the actual video, Mark. And then I found the documents that showed all of the file numbers, and I convinced Mark and Natalie to get a hold of Binger and get the full video, because I'm like, this was obviously, here's the lab report that was never put in discovery. They have the full video. This is the file name that would come out of that drone. This is the file name that they gave us, right? Here's the metadata from the compression, right? I'm the one who told Mark all that, right? I'm the one who got Mark to say, get the full video. I'm the one who told Mark, okay, so now we have some kind of fucking probable cause, right? Now we can talk about the problems with the pixelation and the problem, like, they just gave us the way out of this case. Like, I'm the one who gave that to Mark, right? Because I fly drones for a living, so I know. So that video shows up, but no prosecution, no investigators, nobody bothered to find out where that drone video was. The actual video of the actual shooting, the prosecution, the investigators never bothered? I mean, are you serious?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So they didn't investigate his cell phone. They didn't hold his Snapchat. They didn't subpoena his social media records. The only subpoenas that came out from the case were the federal subpoenas in the days after. The FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force subpoenaed his fucking TikTok and his emails. That's it. That's it. Prosecution never put a fucking City of Kenosha murder trial fucking subpoena in for any of his social media that they should have known about, because he admitted it during his fucking interview, right? They never searched for the fucking video. Now, why do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, with all the stuff that I've done when it comes to like fucked up police, you know, a lot of it is, you know, protecting money and image, right?
100%.
You know, my personal opinion, you know, outside of journalism, but my personal opinion is that that trial wasn't necessarily about Kyle's guilt or innocence. It wasn't about, you know, getting some sort of, you know, semblance of justice for the victims. It was about protecting Kenosha.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100,000 fucking percent. The Anturanian family knew if Kyle was convicted, they would be fucking slaughtered from lawsuits.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's why, I mean, even with Jump Kick Man, so I identified Jump Kick Man 7 months prior to you guys even, you know, knowing who he was, before he was interviewed during the trial, before these two right-wing media outlets, you know, claimed that they identified him. I know what happened in that meeting in that private room. Um, Binger never, none of that statement was recorded. There was never a written statement. You know, nobody ever fucking knew that the jurors didn't know that Jump Kick Man was a real person and who he was. Nobody got to hear from him. Um, but I mean, there's a lot that I've uncovered too about some of that trial. Um, I do have a question from that night, August 25th. So when Kyle walks up to the squad car, and he claimed that they maced him. When that cop got on the stand and he was specifically asked that question, um, the way he kind of cocked his head, the smirk on his face, the pause, it's always for me. It was like, this dude's about to lie. Um, but then, we heard that from Kyle that he wasn't actually maced by that cop. Do you know the story, but the true story behind that? Was he maced? Was he not?
He never said anything about being maced. I think he was pepper sprayed. Like he said he was pepper sprayed. I don't necessarily believe he was pepper sprayed. If you look at the video, it does kind of look like there's a cloud around it. But I don't know why a police officer would pepper spray a kid walking up to the window like that. Like that's excessive force, beyond excessive force, right?
Yeah.
But when you tell a kid, "Hey, get out of here," and then pepper spray, I'm like, it's nonsensical. But what I will tell you is, when it comes to Huber, like, I have a whole different view of Huber and Gage now, right? Like, I don't see them as villains. I do. I see them as kids who are trying to fucking stop who they believe to be a shooter, right? Because Kyle fucking ran away, shot somebody, ran away. But Huber, when I watch the video now over and over again, he moves laterally. He doesn't, like, he barely hits Kyle. He glances him, but he's more or less using a skateboard to kind of hold Kyle down. And he's stepping laterally, like he's stepping away, and he grabs the gun. Kyle didn't pull the trigger. Kyle didn't intentionally pull the trigger in Huber. He testified to that because he had to, right? He had to be very clear. I felt in danger for my life, so I pulled the trigger, right? He had to do that. Otherwise, they'd have got him on negligent. But the truth is what Kyle told Mark and told me was the gun was being pulled and it just went off. Meaning when Huber pulled the gun towards him, Kyle's finger was on the trigger and it fired the weapon.
Jesus Christ.
At that point, Mark said, no, Kyle. No. You intended. You made a decision. The decision was to pull that trigger and shoot because your life felt in danger. And that's why he testified to that.
Jesus Christ.
And he also said he didn't even see the gun engage his hand.
That's what he said in Mark's office?
Yes. Didn't even see the gun in his hand. He said he had a malfunction, which people think he's like some whiz bang. Look, you shot a guy at 3 inches away. Shot a guy whose barrel, because his barrel was literally in the guy's chest. So what happened was Kyle had a failure to feed, right? And he had a failure to feed after shooting Huber because the gun was so close to Huber's chest that the gas system didn't propel the bolt back enough to fully seat, to pick up another round and fully seat that round in the battery, right?
Yeah.
So he short stroked it. That's basically called a short stroke, meaning you're not fully in the battery. and he freaked out, and he started slamming the forward assist, and he did, in my opinion, Kyle, probably, like, he got lucky, right? He got lucky. He was shooting wherever he could shoot because Gage took a step or whatever. Like, he got lucky. But he said he didn't see the gun in his hand when he pulled the trigger. At least that's what was said before we started figuring all this out. Look, I'll give you one more anecdote, right, of where Kyle's head was at. The first day we're in the trial prep, and Corey's giving Kyle like a practice cross-examination, right?
Yeah.
And Corey says, "Hey, Kyle, you know, what was up with the people on the roof? You know, why were there people on the roof of car stores?" And Kyle's response, and I remember this clear as fucking day because my jaw dropped and hit the fucking floor. But Kyle's response was, "We put snipers on the roof to neutralize any threats below." Right? That's where his head was at. His head was like he was some kind of military cop, sniper. That's where his head was at. His head wasn't about, you know, there were people up there just to keep watch around the building. No, his head was like, we put snipers on the roof to neutralize any threats below. My jaw dropped, LT's jaw dropped, Corey's jaw dropped, the whole nine. I also remember Corey telling Kyle clear as day, when that message came out, several messages about using the N-bomb, Corey said, "I would fucking nail you to a cross if I had one of these. I would nail you to a cross," because he was a former prosecutor. So everybody was so fucking concerned. I didn't know what the messages said at that point. I just knew that Corey said he would have him on a cross. I just thought it was part of whatever, right? Like, I didn't know how bad the messages were, right?
Yeah.
And Binger never got that. Binger never used that in court, right? It just, look, I'm telling you, man, something's just so fucking strange about this.
Yeah, I mean, there's, a lot of it is. I mean, a lot of the, we have thousands of hours of video footage. I've got tens of thousands of documents, from the various law enforcement agencies that were out there. And a lot of it, when Kenosha makes direct statements about this happened or this didn't happen or, whatever, we've got all these documents that, tell a completely different story from, what Kenosha says. So, and then even simple stuff where, like one of the main people that was kind of out there, says, "Oh, we didn't have a command center." But then you're reading in, 51 different agencies that, there's a command center. So it's like even lying about something so stupid, then, you start questioning everything. So, I mean, we've already caught Kenosha lying about a lot of different things and what they were actually monitoring.
Yeah, look, I'm 100% with you, right? I didn't sign up to help Kyle. I've pulled the trigger several times, right? I know what it feels like to pull the trigger, and I wanted to give Kyle a fair shot and a fair trial. Because in a fucking world full of polarizing bullshit that happened just before the most contentious election in U.S. history at that time,
Yeah,
I wanted to help Kyle at least raise the money, present himself an effective defense, I'm the one who paid out of pocket for fucking the jury consultant. Like, I want him to get a fair shot. I didn't know about all this cover-up shit at the time, right? And now, one of the reasons I'm so pissed is because now I know that a ton of information was withheld from me. I didn't get the option to decide whether or not I wanted to spend my own money to help this kid, right? I didn't want to get paid for a year and a half of fucking work that I didn't get paid for because we didn't have the money. I got lied to, and that's one of the reasons I'm so fucking pissed. And I didn't sign up to be part of a fucking cover-up or part of a fucking conspiracy, and that's why I started speaking out, right? Like, do I believe Kyle defended himself from Rosenbaum? Yeah, I believe that argument can easily be made, right? Do I also believe that Kyle lied about a lot of the things that happened that night? Yeah, because I know for a fact he pointed his gun at people. He bragged about it to his friends. Right? I know for a fact he wanted to go down there and shoot people because he told his friends he wanted to shoot people. I know for a fact that Kyle pointed his weapon at Zeminski at the truck. Right? That was all provocation. Right? I don't believe that Kyle didn't know that those individuals were running down the street and he didn't chase them on purpose. I don't believe that. Or, I mean, I guess better phrase would be, I don't trust anything that Kyle has said because now I found out that Kyle had lied to me on so many different occasions. Right. And when it comes to the Kenosha Police Department, I 100% believe that there was a cover-up in place. I believe Antaranium, who was actually in charge of the investigation, did whatever he could to not produce evidence from that night, right? So let's fast forward. Let's talk about something else real quick. Let's talk about the FBI drone video, right? The FBI drone video. Look, I knew there was an asset flying in Kenosha that night. I knew that. I submitted through Kyle's civil attorneys 4 FOIAs. 4 fucking freedom of, like 4 FOIAs, and I said, this is the tail number of the asset. And I got that tail number of the asset because I know, I'm a pilot, so I know what ADSB is, right? Right. So that asset was flying. The number was, I think it was like November 985 X-ray Delta was the tail number. So we said, hey, we want information about this asset flying in Kenosha under FBI authorities, right? Kenosha declined that, or not Kenosha, the FBI declined that 3 times. So we filed a FOIA to the FAA, right? Now we got the records from the FAA confirming that tail number was flying IVO Kenosha all night long. So I got the exact time and point in space of where that aircraft was. We then use the FBI records to go back to the FBI, the FAA records go back to the FBI and say, hey, fuck faces, we know this fucking, like, we know this platform was there. They denied it again. So we appealed, and then we appealed all the way up to Merrick Garland and said, hey, your people are playing fuck games here. 2 weeks later, that FBI video gets handed to the prosecution in low resolution form. Okay? Mm-hmm. So there's 2 parts of this. I don't know I hope you'd be interested in this aspect. But what was the platform doing there? That platform was not just a surveillance platform that was put there to help out with public safety, right? That particular platform that was a platform that collected electronic intelligence using a dirt box. It's what we call an Xbox in the military side, right? Which is basically a cell site simulator, which they had been flying over various different other places, including Portland, including Nashville, right? They fly a cell site simulator. The phones connect to that cell site simulator, and now they can access messages depending on the level of decryption. I'll tell you, the ones overseas, we could fucking decrypt everything in transit. Like, we could see everything that that person was saying on messages, phone calls. We had full unadulterated access to that phone. I don't necessarily believe that they were using that level of decryption technology on domestic fucking surveillance platforms, but they could have been. I don't know. But that was a special access program put into place through the U.S. Marshals under the Trump administration, right? Which is why they didn't respond to anything. They always said no records because they considered that a classified program. But I know this to be true because I have friends in the FBI that told me this is exactly what they were doing, and I've used this exact technology overseas hundreds of times. But I won't put my tit hat on too much. But the point is nobody would admit to it until we caught them dead to rights. And then the video shows up. The video that shows up was not the video from the platform itself. The video that showed up was the low-resolution video feed that got sent from the platform to the command center. If that makes sense, right?
Yep.
So the FBI operator testified that they knew what they had that night, yet they destroyed the high-resolution video 30 days later of the shooting, which would show exactly what the fuck happened that night. It would also give up the level of technology and the resolution of the optics, which they probably didn't want to let people know they had, but they're trying to protect, I think, the collection aspect. This is something that's always bothered me. And so the low resolution, which they wouldn't keep on there, that low resolution had to have come from the command center on the ground. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yep. It's interesting.
So,
did Kyle ever say, I mean, we know too from like records and stuff that I've gotten that, you know, they had undercover, you know, agents that were out there. You know, we know that some of the technology that was, you know, being used, you know, that like they were jamming people's cell phones, they were shutting down live streams. You know, we have a thing out here. It's the common name for it. They call it the Fusion Center, but it's the acronym is STAC, Southeast Threat Analysis Center. So it's like their little CIA, you know, little base where they've got different agencies in there, and it's a lot of technology stuff. So we've caught them using different types of technology, you know, during protests and whatever. So yeah, I mean, a lot of what you just explained, I'm familiar with agencies doing that stuff. The FBI's denied us. The DOJ denied a lot of records, sent me just like bullshit stuff. But the night of when, you know, Kyle testifies, like after the incident, he goes back to the car source and he's sitting inside of, you know, that garage, and they exit out of the back door. So the back door of that place is 10th Street. We know, and I wrote about this, so it's not like this isn't public, but and we found this in the U.S. Marshal document to confirm all of this too. But we know for a fact that there was a gun battle that happened between rioters, and I'll call them rioters because they're shooting at fucking police and everybody else, but between rioters and militia style people that happened in a park right off of 10th, like kind of behind the location where Rosenbaum was shot. That street had U.S. Marshals, FBI, and a couple different local agencies. That entire fucking street from basically the point of where Rosenbaum was shot all the way down to the courthouse. Um, and that's the direction in which Kyle walked with Dominic. Did he ever explain how they got past all those police and were able to make it out of Kenosha, especially considering all of the roadblocks that were happening?
No, no, but I think that's interesting. No, he never explained. He said they just left and went to Dominic's car.
Did he say did he say where his car was parked?
Yeah, he did. Someplace it should be in the records someplace in the police records. Have you got the police file from Kenosha?
No, so my background with that, so I filed 33 different open records requests with Kenosha, and Kenosha has denied everything. I mean, we even have, like I'm the one that posted the audio, the scanner audio from that night, and then Kenosha shut down their fucking scanner for 3 months. But like we know that they identified Rittenhouse within 3 minutes of the shooting, and claimed that they didn't know until he reached fucking Antioch. We have officers that wrote reports claiming that they were in one location when we know from the audio and other things that they were not even fucking there. They were somewhere else. And I ended up suing. I filed a writ of mandamus lawsuit against Kenosha. We won some of it, and I'm still 2 years later fighting with the city attorney and KPD to give me records. And then from you and Gage posting, that there's this several hundred page, intel report. It should have been something that when I asked for reports, it should have been something that was disclosed to me. And I'm just now fucking learning about this. And so I filed for that, and I'm fighting with Kenosha again over this, this several hundred page fucking document. So if that's what you're talking about, no, I do not have that. And it was another reason I wanted to reach out to see if you'd be willing to send me a copy of this, because I think this would answer a lot of questions.
So Gage got a hold of one that's pretty heavily redacted. Truth be told, when I posted a page from that, I credited Gage because I have all of the discovery from Kyle's trial. Like, I have all the radio scanners. I have everything. Like, the whole 738 page fucking police report, fully unredacted. All the interviews. Like, I have everything from like the whole discovery file.
Yeah.
I would never be stupid enough to put any of that stuff online, right? Like the phone text is different, right? Like I can rewrite those onto my phone, take a picture, and I can just be like, yeah, no, I wrote what I saw on that phone on my phone and took a picture and published my picture. Like I can get myself out of that legally, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I can protect myself. But putting a page from the police file that I got through my work with Kyle might put me in danger as it relates to being in some sort of proprietary information. Even though I don't have an NDA with Kyle and never signed one, I just feel like that could open me up. So the point I'm trying to get to is I can send you the one that Gage has that's redacted, but I can also send you the unredacted one. I would just plead with you that you do not use or just keep me as some kind of anonymous source.
Yeah, that's fine, Dave. I can protect all of it, as a confidential source. I'm totally, fine with doing that. I would like I did ask KPD for the unredacted version, which obviously they're not going to give me, because I want to, based off everything that we've gotten so far, and we've caught Kenosha lying multiple times about a bunch of other stuff. Uh, I wanted to see copies of both the redacted and unredacted in order to try to, put some pieces together. So yeah, if you're willing to send me both versions, 100% I will protect that as confidential. And I would never release the unredacted anything, um, just because that's, some of that shit is too fucking dangerous, and we have to have a ethical, stance with things too
Yeah.
when we release it. So yeah, I mean, if you wouldn't mind emailing both those versions over, that would be great. I'd really appreciate that.
Well, I'll send you a link. I gotta put it on Google Doc. So I had it on Dropbox. I tried to copy everything, and I know that there are some problems with like space because it was like fucking 24 gigabytes of fucking, or more than that. It was like fucking 630 gigabytes of information with all the videos and everything. But I know I have, most of the stuff that would be interesting to you. But I have to put it onto Google Drive.
Okay.
So I put it on Google Drive. I'll send you the link that you can download it because they're big